Welcome back, Sebastian here. So in lieu of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, Imola, being cancelled this past weekend, I thought today would be a good chance to go back and take a look at F1 history and see which other races have been cancelled and look at the circumstances why and see if there's any similarities between them. So the first Formula One races that were cancelled were actually only 5 years into its existence in 1995. And this was right after the infamous Le Mans disaster, where I think a driver as well as 88 spectators were tragically killed in an accident when basically one of the driver's cars basically flew into the crowd. And that year led to the cancellation of the French, German, Spanish, and Swiss Grand Prix. So it was a very shortened season that year. 1957, the Dutch and the Belgian Grand Prix were both cancelled. That year was the year of basically the Suez energy crisis, and a lot of the money that was going to be used to pay the drivers and the prize money for those Grand Prix were coming from oil money. So because of this energy crisis, the organizers didn't have the money to basically pay Formula One to host the races. And so basically those races were canceled. One of the races was replaced by the Pescara Grand Prix, which was basically a race in Italy that was on this extremely long, I think 8-mile, 16-kilometer-ish track through the roads of Italy. So that's an interesting tidbit there. I believe it was only run once as an official Grand Prix, but it was run many times before Formula One started. Next we get to 1969, which was the Belgian Grand Prix getting cancelled because of a driver strike, which was led by Sir Jackie Stewart as a result of a protest against still very lax safety standards in F1 in those days. So very different from the others that we've looked at so far. 1985, again, Belgian Grand Prix. Oddly enough, the Belgian Grand Prix has showed up basically 3 times, and 4 times if you include 2021. And this time it was because of the track and the track breaking up. And basically the track had been resurfaced, I think, but it was in such bad condition that during Friday practice, basically the track was breaking up and it was too dangerous to race on. So they ended up redoing the track again, repaving the track, and then they held the race several months later towards the end of the season in September. Then we get all the way to 2011, and this was the 2011 Bahrain Grand Prix, which was cancelled because of the Arab Spring and political unrest in the region. And there was a lot of concern, especially the following year in 2012, about safety of the team, safety of the drivers, going to Bahrain for that Grand Prix. So very, very unique situation that year. And of course, then we have 2022 all the way to 2023, which were the COVID years. And I think all of those years we've had many races cancelled. For example, the Chinese Grand Prix has been cancelled every year because of COVID, even though it has to be on the schedule because it has a contract. Monaco Grand Prix was cancelled, Canadian Grand Prix was cancelled twice, Japanese and Singapore Grand Prix were both cancelled twice as well. So I think going forward it shouldn't be an issue. I think China's probably the only holdout, which would lead to possibly next year's race being cancelled again. But you basically look at all the races before this year and they all have very different circumstances surrounding all of them. And then of course we get to this year, 2023, with the Imola Grand Prix being cancelled because of extreme weather. And it's really the first race that's been cancelled because of like natural disaster, extreme weather type situation. I think the main reason why they canceled, I think I talked about this in my video last week, was basically the drain on the resources in the local area, like the fire marshals, medics, the helicopter that they need to have at the track in case there's a really dangerous crash, and just like all the people that would be coming into the area. Plus, it's not really a great idea to hold a Grand Prix race when you've had many people who've lost their homes, they've lost their livelihoods, they've lost their lives as well. So I think there was a variety of reasons why this race was canceled. I think, I was started to think about this. I think it's really the first race we've lost because of extreme weather, and because of climate change. Extreme weather events are getting more frequent, and they're also becoming worse in magnitude. So, for example, an event that used to only happen once every 1,000 years can now happen once every 100 years. an event that's once every 50 years could now happen once every 5-10 years, for example. I mean, obviously, I'm just kind of throwing numbers out there. That's kind of what you're looking at. So I think, as climate change continues to get worse, I think there's a possibility that we have more of such events in the future. In 10 years time, it wouldn't surprise me if we have 1 or 2 races a year, assuming we still have Formula 1 then, that may be canceled because of extreme weather. And I think maybe almost a good luck. I think it's also good luck that we haven't had anything like that happen so far. Like if you think about, for example, if the 2011 tsunami and earthquake in Japan happened, right before the Japanese Grand Prix, I have no doubt that the Japanese Grand Prix that year would have been canceled. And it's really just, a matter of timing. I think if this race was, a month, 2 months down the road, we would still be having the Grand Prix and it wouldn't really be as much of an issue. I think it was just we had the rains, the heavy rains were basically 3-4 days before the race, and it basically made it impossible to hold the Grand Prix safely. So really that's all for this video. I think it was interesting to look at the, there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different times that Formula 1 has really canceled its races. And interesting to see how different each of the circumstances are surrounding each of those cancellations. So that's all for this video. Of course, this weekend, hopefully we'll actually have a Grand Prix, of course, Monaco Grand Prix. I'll be back on Thursday with doing a preview of that. And so thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.